Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Better Opinion. I am your host, Kevin, and today there are no skinwalkers here. They've all been removed. I am, of course, joined by my non-skinwalker co-host, Mansur.
Yes.
Mansur, you are a real human.
Yes.
And this joke hasn't happened even 3 or 4 times. This is not a Burnout joke at all.
No.
No.
Skinwalkers, a kind of a phase that this.
They were just a phase for the podcast.
I think
we were going through a phase. It was like teenagers,
Yeah.
You don't understand, Mom. I'm a skinwalker.
Yeah, we were in our teens in the episode, so like now we're getting into our 20s. I think.
So now we do drugs and like ruin things and disappoint our dads.
Yes, but I believe you had a topic today.
Yeah. So I do have a topic. I was on stream recently, and I mentioned the subject of Star Wars, right? And I remember a lot of people all sounding off that they don't really like Star Wars, right? And I know you have mentioned in the past you're not a huge fan of Star Wars. And I sort of got into this, I'm sort of, how would I put it? I don't want to use I don't like saying philosopher, but I like to philosophize, right? I like to sort of think about those statements. And as I was talking about it on stream, I started talking about I feel like that's a strange thing. And this isn't just about Star Wars. I could apply this to almost any media, and I will actually, but in the course of this explanation. But for Star Wars, as an example, when I was talking about it on stream, I mentioned that I don't feel like people really actually don't like Star Wars. I think what's happened is that they're not being contrarian. I want to be clear. I'm not claiming people are being contrarian. People being contrarian exists, but that's not my claim here. I think that what happens is that Star Wars is pretty cool. For all of its faults, the setting is pretty cool. So, laser swords are cool, even if they're impractical. Spaceships are cool.
I mean, lasers are just cool
in general. Lasers are cool in general, yeah. And, space wizards are kind of cool. I mean, we like wizards in D&D. Why wouldn't we like them in space? Spaceships are cool.
Yeah.
It's a cool setting.
Yeah.
The
Schwartz is a wonderful.
I love the Schwartz. I see your Schwartz is as big as mine.
Yeah, it's like I never knew how to comb the sands in order to find someone. Now I do. Shit, that's the wrong series. God damn it. Well,
thank you. Yes, I am Dark Helmet. They're making Spaceballs too. I hope it's good.
I hope it's good too, but I'm not.
If it makes fun of modern Star Wars, it will be good because there's a lot to make fun of, and that's my point. Is I think what's happened is that most people who were exposed to Star Wars before it became what it is now liked it. Not all, but most, or at minimum, didn't think it was bad, right? But then over time, Disney's taken over. They've ruined everything. Instead of lightsaber crystals being cool, they've turned them into mood rings.
Oh.
Right? They've killed all of the old characters off in really pathetic, stupid ways so they can introduce us to their really dumb new characters. They let Rian Johnson within 100 feet of Star Wars, which should have been illegal.
When I saw the first trailer for the first Star Wars they were making, I was actually very excited. I was like, oh, a stormtrooper is going to be a Jedi?
Yeah, that sounded really cool, right?
And then that didn't happen.
He just became a comedy character, the comic relief. Yeah.
I was like...
I would have been really invested. Here's the thing. I've actually talked about this. So imagine, if you will, that instead of what we got, Rey was still there. Right? Because everyone's like, oh, you don't like Rey, you don't like a woman. No, shut up. I love women. That's not the point. The point is that if imagine, if you will, that the next hero, the destined hero, was a stormtrooper.
Yeah, that was such a cool idea that never...
You want to know why? Do you want to know why that's so cool? Because imagine all of the stormtroopers that get shot. Now imagine, if you will, that any of those could have been the next hero. It makes you realize that stormtroopers are people, that they could have been the good guys, they could have been Luke, right? And that is it's very interesting. And if you know what they should have done with Rey, she's from the Junker planet. They should have had him and her meet, and she should have been his Han Solo to his Luke.
That would have actually been very cool. Yeah, because
Because she's the tech person. She grew up around tech. She knows all about it. Then they meet Han Solo. She could have learned from him.
And I think I guess she's not Han Solo's daughter, or
no, she's not Han Solo's daughter. She's Palpatine's granddaughter. She's not related to anyone. She's related to Palpatine for some reason, which I am sure an executive did in a room. They sat down in a room and they said, I've got the dumbest idea on the planet. Oh, that's great. I'll invest billions into this. Great. We're going to ignore anything that makes this series interesting. And we're just going to decide Palpatine had kids.
You know, the reason why they probably did that was because of probably what happened to, God damn it, Indiana Jones, when they tried to have Shia LaBeouf as Indy's son.
Illegitimate son, yeah.
And people, I think, hated that. So they thought,
I'll do it again.
It's like, no, they didn't do that again.
Yeah, well, no, they did it again, but this time they said, what if it was Hitler's son?
It was like, what?
It was Hitler's secret daughter.
I was like, it's such a weird decision.
It is a very strange decision. But you know, the point here is that I don't want to endlessly go about Star Wars. The point here is that if you look at modern Star Wars, it's pretty bad in a lot of ways, right? And so I think when you look at modern Star Wars, you go, I don't like Star Wars. If you were already not really, really into old Star Wars, you're not even angry. You're just uninvested.
Yeah.
And so then when the subject of Star Wars comes up, you go, I don't really like Star Wars. I was never really a big fan of Star Wars. But the truth is, well, you never really had a chance to enjoy Jedi Academy, Bounty Hunter, Republic Commando, these great Star Wars games. You know, people forget how great the original Star Wars Battlefront was.
Which is really weird because I'll preface this as I was not really a great fan of the Marvel movies either, but I appreciate how they got people to become a fan of the Marvel characters who weren't Spider-Man, because everyone loves Spider-Man. That's why
the Amazing Spider-Man. What can I say?
It's like everyone loves Spider-Man. That's the only character that Marvel was able to sell off. No one cared about Iron Man. No one cared about the Hulk. Well, I mean, the fans cared about them, but like
not like it wasn't a widespread thing.
It's like no one wanted to buy these characters,
right?
But Disney managed to. I don't remember when they bought Marvel. They managed to come in, buy Marvel, and make Iron Man a character that people wanted to watch.
Yeah, they made him very popular, and that happened with a lot of these Marvel characters. And nowadays, I think it would be disingenuous to say you don't like Marvel. If you liked it before and you don't like it now, it's not that you don't like Marvel. It's that you don't like what Disney has done with it. It's oversaturated. It's repetitious. It's uninteresting. But that doesn't mean that Iron Man 1 wasn't a great film, right? And I think that that's what happens is that you have these things that are good. And then either the owner or the new owner does a lot of bad to it over an extended period of time. And then you have people who start saying, I don't like it. And those people get labeled as contrarians, but that's not what's happening. It happened for me with Souls games. You know, I bought a PlayStation to play Demon's Souls. I've talked about this on this podcast before. And if I were to say I don't like Souls, that would probably be disingenuous. I don't like Elden Ring. I don't like modern Souls. I don't like what it has become because it's become something else. So when you ask me, do you like Souls games? And I say no, what I'm actually saying is I don't like what it has become. But if you were to go backwards, I'd probably have a really good time. Same with Final Fantasy, right? I don't know if are you a big fan of Final Fantasy or even like it at all?
I probably need to actually get into it. The only experience I really had with Final Fantasy was the MMO, because my friend said, hey, try it.
Yeah, those don't even count. If you look at modern Final Fantasy and what it was before, it was like a friend of mine said, it seems like at some point Square Enix just suddenly was embarrassed by their greatest creation of all time. And they just went hard in another direction that has repeatedly failed them, right? Like, and I'm not talking about the MMOs. I'm talking about, you know, all the Lightning games, you know, Final Fantasy 13 and all its iterations, you know, Final Fantasy 15. Some people like 16, but I'm going to be honest, to me, it was almost non-existent. I know like 3 people who have a lot to say about that one game and not much else,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I feel like that has happened. You know, you look at the older Final Fantasy games and they're dudes in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had a friend recently go back and start playing the older Final Fantasies. He's like, I forgot how good these were. Right?
Yeah.
So when you say you don't like Final Fantasy, what you really mean is you don't like what it's become.
Mm-hmm.
It's become an action RPG.
I think that's I think a good example of that is Call of Duty as well.
Yeah, Call of Duty. Yeah, that's a good example. Absolutely.
I going back to Marvel, it's like my favorite character has always been Spider-Man.
Sure, I love
And, like,
Spider-Man.
I love the Spider-Man animated series. I saw it not like 2-3 years ago. I still love it. It's like very weird, but it is strangely an animated children's cartoon that's probably one of the most brutal children's cartoons that you will ever see. It's like you see Liquid Man melt to death. It's like, what the fuck am I watching? A lot of people complain that because that didn't have like actual guns, everyone was shooting a laser gun, then it didn't have blood. It wasn't like, it couldn't be what its peak. I fucking disagree. That was a show that was surprisingly brutal.
Yeah, well, they're skirting around, right? They're trying to skirt around the regulators, right? That's what's happening, and we can all acknowledge that. You know, even as a kid, I acknowledged that. I understood what was happening.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I think that it is interesting to look at what a lot of popular media has become and the reaction people have to it. I think that the best way that you fight the sort of like corporate destruction of good media is to continue to publicly favor the old media. You know, people get mad at me when I, you know, like an example, I'm only using this, I don't really want to talk about Souls, but it's the one I hark on a lot, even on this podcast. And it's because it's a incredibly popular thing that I tend to be the odd man out on. And it's the reason that I'm so vocal about it is I think that over time I've slowly found other people who agree with me. I've even convinced, you know, I'm a very big defender of Dark Souls 2. And people will go, so it's his favorite one. I go, no, it's actually not my favorite one. But I think it gets a bad rap because what happened is a bunch of people came in with Dark Souls 3. That was their first game. It's the easiest one. And they go backwards and they get filtered. And then through popular, I don't know, the proverbial zeitgeist of society all agree it's terrible, and they all convince each other, and people who've never played the game just parrot what everyone else says. But by continuously harking on that and continuously talking about it, I've convinced multiple people to go back and try it again. And then they came to me and they said, I don't know what was wrong with me. That was a great time. You're right. I mean, yeah, it has flaws, but they all have flaws. You were right. And I think that's how you save good media, is you don't let it die. You don't let the new owners suppress it. You know, when I talk about Star Wars, my friends and I, we run tabletop games. We talk about old Star Wars. We don't talk about new lore. We pretend it's not real. Canon is Legends. Legends is canon. That's how we talk about it. That's how we talk about it with other people. And when people go, well, then why is it in this? I go, because Disney's bad at their job. And you should ignore them because eventually they're going to sell it.
Yeah. That's why I'm kind of disappointed why it's so hard to find stuff like the old Star Trek. And like without going through, I mean, like there's like this free broadcasting service that kind of goes through the episodes, but not in the way that I want to go through it just episode by episode in chronological order, because streaming services are weird. But I do find it weird how people want to remix old stories in this new way. I have no problem with people making new stories. But I think the problem is, as we've said multiple times, is that when you kind of change the soul of something, it doesn't feel right. I'll bring up the new Spider-Man never felt right to me.
Yeah, I think out of the newer Marvel films, those are the only ones I've ever, in recent history, I've been particularly interested in. And I would agree with you. That they still don't feel like actual Spider-Man,
because he's not his own character. He's was Iron Man's pupil.
Yeah,
and that kind of lessens what Spider-Man is, which is a self-taught hero.
Yeah,
he's always been a self-taught hero who made the primordial mistake. And it was only when they brought that mistake back in the third film that he became interesting again.
Yeah.
When they brought back all the old Spider-Man and he had to go through the Uncle Ben arc with like Aunt May.
Yeah, I actually think that honestly, the smartest thing they did was bringing back Tobey Maguire and Scrunchy Face. I never remember the actor's name. I just remember how scrunchy his face is.
Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield, which, by the way, not an attack on Andrew Garfield. I think he's a good actor.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just never remember his name, and he has a really scrunchy face. Like, his face is just kind of small and kind of like this.
Yeah, I feel like in a lot of movies he gets a bad rap, but in like this in the movies where he actually has a chance, he does very well.
Yeah, and I thought that I really liked the dynamic of the three of them talking about their experience and their reality
and how weird Tobey Maguire is with his actual.
Yeah. They actually like acknowledged how weird that was. Which, you know what's funny? It's weird, but to some degree, I always liked it more.
Yeah, it's like I was always confused because I think Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man was my first like actual exposure to Spider-Man, and then I go to like old shows like.
I was a longtime watcher of Spider-Man cartoons since I was a little kid. And I actually, as a child, always was like, he's supposed to be a Spider-Man, but he has to like make web. Why even make web? Why make it web? Why not just like he went through an advanced alchemical process to make this web substance. And I'm like, why not just like make a cool slingshot? Like, why not have the hook shot from Zelda? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, turn him into Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. Why is he using web? I don't know. And someone could try to explain it. I would still probably not agree because it's like, but if you tell me it's like his mutant power, then I'm like, oh, well, it doesn't need to make perfect, like logical decision-making sense. Because like he got what he got. You know what I mean?
That always made more sense to me. But the problem is that they made Spider-Man someone who he wasn't, which is like he's always been the hero who never got along with the Avengers. He never really got along with the X-Men either.
Yeah.
Because
he kind of thinks they're all kind of bitches, you know?
Yeah.
Like, his whole thing has always been like, well, I lost my girlfriend. I lost my uncle. Then I lost my girlfriend. Then I lost my best friend. But I lost my best friend after I lost his dad, who was sort of like a surrogate father to me. And I still decided to be a good person. And all of you just keep crying because like, oh no, I was born with superpowers. He always kind of like treated the X-Men kind of like they were bitches. Like, damn, you whine a lot.
Yeah.
And he always treated the Avengers as like, damn, you really are full of yourself. And that was what was great about him.
Yeah, because he was in some way kind of right.
He was always very right. Not to interrupt you, but you want to know why I like how right he was? Is because he was usually right. The writer had an argument, and the argument was sound. You know, some writers aren't perfect, but the mainline Spider-Men, whenever they encountered these problems, they weren't just, every other character was standing on their morals, and their reason was because they were. His reason was written, you could read it, and then it was really hard to say you're wrong because you just read the logic.
Yeah, and it never felt like he thought less of his villains either.
No, he actually usually empathized with them. Except for the time he beat the shit out of Kingpin to an inch of his life in front of a group of people.
Yeah.
And then said, if you ever fuck with me again, I'll kill you. And proved that he could, which was based. I always liked the idea that he was pulling his punches because he was not because, like Batman, he had some weird moral line, but because his moral line was, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. I have the ability to crush this man's skull, and I shouldn't, so long as I don't have to.
Yeah.
Versus Batman is just like, Daddy got killed by a gun, so I hate guns even as a full-grown adult. It's like, that's not a good reason. But like, yeah, you're basically like super powerful. It's sort of like Superman. Like, hey, maybe you shouldn't crush people's skulls unless you really have to. And you don't have to. You have the means to not.
Yeah, Spider-Man's always been like the logical character, which him and like Deadpool were always like my favorite characters in the Marvel universe because they always had nuanced takes on situations.
Deadpool is sort of his opposite. Deadpool is, oh yeah, I killed that guy. Well, you didn't have to. Right, but now that he's dead, he's not a problem. Yeah, but like killing's bad. That's sort of a subjective thing, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't feel bad, and I don't think anyone will feel bad that he's gone.
And it's very interesting that they often get along with each other.
Because the argument is sound.
Yeah.
You know, they both have sort of an internal logic that is hard to argue with without taking a ambiguous moral stance. Spider-Man's reason for him not crushing people's skulls is as logically sound to his life experience as Deadpool's absolute willingness to remove heads from necks and not having a problem with it. It all fits into their internal logic of their experience. Within reason, you know, Deadpool kind of gets crazy with Thanos and dating death and all this shit, right? Yeah. But when you keep it just the merc with a mouth.
Yeah, it always seems to make sense.
Yeah, within some reason, because also all the fourth wall breaking and such. But I think that, but yes, I agree with you that Spider-Man always felt like a really interesting and good character no matter what you did with him. And then they kind of just turned him into this sort of like baby boy who's like looks up to Big Daddy Stark. And it was kind of boring. You know,
it's not Peter Parker.
No, and like no offense to Zendaya, but she's not Mary Jane. She's Zendaya, and Zendaya's the same character in everything. She was the same character in Dune.
Yeah,
you know, she's just like stoic, cool girl. You know, even when they write her as shy, you just don't see it.
Yeah, and it was kind of like came out of nowhere. It's like, I mean, I get why people are excited. It's like sure. It's like I can see why she's popular with people, but also
I don't say that as a negative to her, and I'm sure people will be like, actually, I love Zendaya as Mary Jane. She's perfect. I'm like, shut up. You're allowed to like it.
Yeah,
we're not attacking her as an actress. I just don't think she fits. Even ignoring Ginger Eraser, I just doesn't feel like the character.
Yeah, it was the same with Dune as well.
She was not.
It kind of changed the character completely because she didn't react. The ending was different.
Yeah, it was absolutely different
because of how Zendaya acted it.
Well, I actually don't know, and maybe you can answer this for me. Was that the way she interpreted the script, or was that the script?
I don't know.
Because I don't really know if I can blame her. Sometimes it is, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes the actor takes it in a direction that's wrong. But I feel like there was a number of ways that they wrote that character that just was not the character from Dune.
Yeah, because
she's not even supposed to be like all angry at the end like that.
Yeah, because I think she also sort of believed in, Shia LaHood. Because it's weird that she was disillusioned by it. Or whatever. Whatever the character, it doesn't matter.
Well, Shai Hulud is the giant worm. Did you mean Lisan Al-Gaib?
Lisan Al-Gaib, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's like, whatever. Because
there's a lot of weird words there. You got Mahdi, Moadib. But Moadib is just a jerboa. It's the sand mouse.
Yeah. But it felt, because by the end, I'm pretty sure she was supposed to be with the whole religious stuff.
She was. Also, she was only annoyed for like a second about the idea of him marrying the princess. But it was explained to her by his mom, who also was not married to Duke Leto, is that it was supposed to be, she's like, yes, you are not his wife, but you will have his kids, and everyone will remember that you are his partner, just like I was. Right?
And she was for that.
She was like, yeah, this all makes a lot of logical sense.
Yeah, in the second book, she's like, you should have a child with her because it's correct. It was actually a God damn it. I forget the main character. Paul was the one who was most against this.
Right.
Paul was the one who was most against everything that happened.
Yes. Yeah, it was a real change. And I think this is something I've talked about with people. Whenever someone new gets their hands on a beloved media, they always feel like they have to meddle with it. And it's like, I gotta leave my mark. And it's like, no, you don't, because your mark sucks. You don't have your job because you're good. You have your job because of nepotism. You have friends and family,
Yeah.
almost universally. That's all these showrunners,
Yeah.
you know, the fucking guys who run. Those guys who ran the Game of Thrones show should never be given work again. They suck. And they always do this. They always go, oh, well, this is my interpretation. And they'll have the audacity. I swear, I hope I never meet these people and they speak in front of me. Because if I was interviewing you and you were about to take an amazing piece of media, and then you said to me, I never played the game, or I never read the books, or I don't like the books, I'd be like, I'm going to kill you now on camera. Like why would you allow someone who doesn't like the thing that they're working with create that thing?
Yeah, it's such a weird. It's like Halo is not Halo.
Halo's not Halo.
The Witcher is not The Witcher, and like it's Star Wars is no longer Star Wars.
Yeah, The Witcher was really weird because the only parts about it that were correct were the parts that Henry Cavill forced them to do because he loves the Witcher, and they hated him for it. They talked shit about him and they tried and failed to afterwards try to make him look like some weird sex pest. But then he was like, yeah, I'm not the bad guy. They're mad because they tried to force me to do nude scenes and I refused.
Yeah.
You know, oh, we're going to try to depict him as a sex predator after we tried to force him to be naked in front of a room full of women and he refused to. But this is what I mean, right? This is Hollywood. And this is game companies. This was Hollywood. They take something that was good and they just make terrible decisions left and right. And you don't know why they do it.
It's like
you don't even know what to say
because it's hard. But it's hard for me to imagine because I'm not a like solely a businessman, and I'm not someone who is just not a fan. It feels like these are anti-fans. These are people who see money and an IP, and then they see IP. I will add more popular stuff to IP and make more money.
And it's weird. So, funny thing with Star Wars, when the new Star Wars stuff first came out, I actually said, yeah, this is gonna, the first one, The Force Awakens, I gave them a little bit of benefit of the doubt. I was like, you just got this thing, right? And you're kind of afraid. Mm-hmm. So Force Awakens is essentially just New Hope rewritten. And I said, well, you're trying to reboot the series. Like, I see the flaws, but I also kind of am like, it's kind of like when you're playing D&D and someone's a DM for the first time. Mm-hmm. There's just some flaws you're going to kind of overlook. You're going to go, I get it. Mm-hmm. You're learning. But then they went with all this other shit, and we got The Last Jedi and all this garbage. And you start to realize it's like, oh no, you weren't having growing pains. You're just stupid. And not to, I know you want to say something to that, but I just want to say, like, I realized at the time, and I said to people, I said, this is going to hurt them in the long run. And you know what people said to me? They said, yeah, but these movies made $2 billion. And I said, for a company that spends $2 billion every year, like, okay, so they made $2 billion. How much of that was actual profit after everything was said and done? Yeah. They spend that much every year. I don't know what you're talking about. This is a mega corporation. Orders of magnitude matter. So they made a lot of money. I'm not talking. They made that money now. Mm-hmm. In the long run, they're not going to be making that much money. Mm-hmm. It's going to go downward. And this mega corporation that spends this kind of money every year is going to start to feel the pain because this isn't a one-off. You didn't make Phasmophobia. Mm-hmm. You're not one guy who made a hit game that sold 1 billion copies. Mm-hmm. And now you, one guy, are sitting on a pile of money.
Yeah.
You're not the two people who made Kenshi and sold 1 million copies. You are a mega corporation who spends $1 billion a year. Mm-hmm. So you can't afford to not make $1 billion every time. And that's what happened. Because Han Solo lost money. And if you go look at the timeline, Disney had a timeline. They showed all these things they were going to create. Mm-hmm. And then Solo released. And they stopped talking about the timeline. And a bunch of stuff never got made.
Yeah.
including the sequel.
It was the same for Marvel, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I kind of lost the plot when they didn't make Finn a Jedi, because I feel like if you were actually a person who is like, I didn't even enjoy Star Wars, and I thought that was an interesting concept because I understood the story to a relative degree, and I understood that making a stormtrooper a Jedi would be very cool. And the fact that they didn't just jump on that made me think, oh, maybe these guys have no idea what they're fucking
They have no idea. They have no idea. You know what the other problem that Disney and Marvel have in general? I mean, Marvel's part of Disney. This is what Disney has a problem with. They need to like punch their marketing department. That whoever makes because it's marketing that makes trailers. It's not anyone from the show. It's not anyone from the movie. The person who makes the trailers is some marketer. They did this with Rogue One, and if you look, and they did this with The Force Awakens, is they create a trailer that tells a completely different story than the film.
Yeah.
Literally, the trailer for Rogue One makes you think you're about to watch Star Wars Ocean's 11, and it has a line from the movie that is used as the quintessential line of the trailer that is not in the movie, which is where they say this is a rebellion, and she turns and goes, "I rebel." It's what that's what I do.
Yeah.
I rebel. That's not in the movie. It's not even in there. And the movie isn't Star Wars Ocean's 11. The movie is a drama. It's a slow burn, sad story about the people who stole the Death Star plans and died for it.
And you know what? They need to fire the guy who keeps making Iron Man 1 over and over again.
God, please stop making Iron Man 1.
Because, like, what was it? Thor, I think Black Panther was similar. Well, what else? What else movie did they do?
You want to know what's wrong with Black Panther? Black Panther was wild to me because everybody was like, dude, I love Black Panther. Yes, finally, we get to see a movie about a black superhero. And I said, the story of Black Panther is about a nation of ultra wealthy, ultra powerful black people who very specifically let all of Africa live in squalor to keep themselves enriched. This is not very powerful.
In fact, someone who was like the main villain is someone who was under oppression and came because he had a problem with this. The main plot point was that the king's brother came to America and saw, it's like, this isn't good.
Yeah,
our guys are suffering.
Yeah.
And then the king was like, no, die.
Yeah. The funniest thing is you watch the whole movie, and the way the movie portrays it is T'Challa, the good guy, a man named Killmonger. Someone wrote that, by the way. Someone wrote the name Killmonger down and said, oh yeah, that's good. And a guy named Killmonger who is willing to just betray and kill people shows up. And it's really easy, if you turn your brain off and don't listen to the plot, to just go, oh yeah, these are the good guys and that's the bad guy.
But the thing is, Killmonger like says stuff that makes sense. The stolen goods in all the museums, like, yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, they're all stolen goods. Yeah,
it is like, and then
that's a pretty important discussion. Maybe we shouldn't like massacre a group of people to get them back, but it's still,
like they should still return that shit.
Yeah,
it's like,
well, who are they going to return them to? Because we forgot, they're going to give it to Wakanda, because Wakanda won't show it to anyone, but they will just let the people directly outside their super high-tech bubble continue to like farm dirt.
Yeah, it's like, and like,
oh hey, super powerful flying people, just me and my cow and my dirt.
It's like, and I saw, it's like people, it's like when they brought like the broke college student to Wakanda, I was like thinking to myself, this isn't as like awe-inspiring to me as you make it.
So let me see if I understand. You have a material that is so amazing. You could literally make ultra life-saving tech. In fact, you have used it to make technology so advanced, healing technology so advanced, that you could just cure any disease. Did you know that Africa suffers from some of the deadliest and hardest to cure, and in some cases impossible to cure, diseases?
Did you know that Africa is actually just a hellscape where people are treated like shit? It was like, did you know that?
Did you know there's warlords everywhere, and you could send one guy, and you wouldn't have to give him a gun. You just put him in a furry outfit, and he'd go, and he'd just like annihilate all of them and restore peace to the village.
That'd be crazy. But you know what? Instead, random mercenaries that might approach your Invisibubble with is like who could probably be handled by any random dude in your village with any technology. It's like
Dude, Wakanda forever. That's what I'm saying. You know, it's not even that the movie is bad. It's that the message is shit, and people made up their own message. They just made up their own message. They just said, finally, a black guy. Now I'm invested. You know, that's what happened. That's what happened. It's a black superhero, so they all decided that it was good and that this was great and that this was a powerful message about heritage. Yeah, a heritage of fucking everyone else in the ass.
And there's still a monarchy.
And there's still a monarchy that's decided by combat. It's not decided by aptitude. It's not even truly decided by lineage, because it's just various village chiefs' kids. So it's only semi-lineage, because any of them could win.
Yeah.
They've just decided to lose the fight willingly to let that guy stay in charge.
Yeah, and it's crazy because thinking about like the first guy who like loses at the beginning, he's got a point. His people have been neglected.
Yeah,
they live in the fucking mountain
because they don't drink the orange juice with everyone else. You know, they don't drink the Kool-Aid. They've been exiled to live in shit village on Ass Mountain. Yeah. Right, and then they're like, "Why would we like you? You sent us to shit village on Ass Mountain."
and then they save the guys, and then they still live in
shit village on Ass Mountain. Yeah, exactly. You know, I am sure someone with a diluted sense of understanding could make some vastly inferior argument as to why what we've said isn't actually accurate. It's not really going to defeat the central point about why that movie and that plot sucks ass.
Yeah.
You know, and that is what sort of has happened with all of the IPs Disney has touched. They've all become this thing that is disconnected from its own story. And I don't know where the break is. You know, people can make it up, but without actually being there. Is it the writer? Is it the director? Is it executives? Is it everyone? And if it's everyone, how did they all get into that position? My guess, nepotism.
Because
they're all just rich people who know each other.
I think Black Panther is a good example, because I think it's the idea that the message sort of forgets the context that's in. Mm-hmm. It's like you see all this context, and then you see the message. It's like, is that what you got from it? It's like, wait.
Well, I mean, like, even going back to like Star Wars, for example, right? The old Star Wars films were pretty clear about like why one side was good and one side was bad, right? They were you understood that, like, even with the mistakes of various things, like there was a clear reason that this was a problem. And then, you know, you watch these later things and you're just kind of like, okay, so the bad guys are bad because a weird looking man with the world's dumbest name is who is just like, we didn't know what to do, so we just made a more fucked up Palpatine and put him on a throne and named him Snoke. I get
no, not even that. They brought Palpatine back.
Well, they brought him back later, but we had Snoke for a while, and he was running the First Order or whatever. And you have to remember, I get it. Palpatine's first name is Sheev, so I'm not exactly like expecting a lot when it comes to quality of names. But Snoke, like, it makes me think of Snork, those enemies from Stalker that just have a gas mask fused to their face and run around going, like, oh, there he is. And he looks like that too. And he's like,
someone ripped his mask off.
Well, what's the plot here? The plot is that Skywalker's, one of Skywalker's apprentices, who is Han Solo's son, one time saw his master do something awful in a fever dream, which why would Luke even do that? Doesn't make any sense. And decided in that moment that his only option was to join super Hitler wannabe, because that's what Snoke is, and go, oh, I love darkness, but it makes me sad, so I'm gonna kill my dad.
I feel so bad for Adam Driver. He's such a good actor.
He's such a good actor, and oh my, you wouldn't guess it if that's the only thing you ever saw him in. Logan Lucky, I watched him in Logan Lucky, and I was like, oh, Kylo Ren was just a mistake.
Kylo Ren was a paycheck. Kylo Ren is a paycheck.
Yeah.
That is purely it. Adam Driver, if you put him in any other role that is decently written, he's a fucking powerhouse.
He was good in those SNL skits when they were advertising Star Wars, and he played like a secret boss as Kylo Ren.
Yeah,
he did good as that.
Yeah.
So he could have done a good job as Kylo Ren the whole time. It was just the writing. It makes me think a lot of Elijah Wood with Frodo. The worst part of the Lord of the Rings movies is Frodo. He's just an abysmal character. It's not because Frodo is bad. It's because the script just has him doing this all the time. That's it. That's his only expression is the camera looks at him for a really long time and he goes, and Elijah Wood kind of has creepy dead looking eyes just because of like how stark his eyes are. So you really need him to like emote.
I loved him in Wilfred.
Yeah, sure. That was great. He's great in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
He's actually a really great actor. But you wouldn't know that because in the movies, in the Lord of the Rings movies, Sam is the best character.
Yeah, because Sam kind of does the heavy lifting of being...
having a personality or anything at all. Doing everything.
Is like Frodo's just the sad main character who's like, oh, there's a lot of pressure on me.
Which is not who he is in the books. In the books, he's way more of a character. And I think Elijah Wood would have done a great job depicting that character. But instead, you just get an additional 30 minutes of screen time that is just the camera going like this as he goes. And that's like every shot of him. Or this.
Very good.
That's every shot. If you think I'm wrong, go watch it. You could cut out all of those shots and save 30 minutes of screen time. I am not kidding. That is his whole personality. Do you want to know the most personality he has in that entire series is at the very beginning when he meets Gandalf. That's the only time he has a personality. And it was like it's like they did that, like they recorded that, and then someone said, no. This is far too fun and interesting. I want it boring and lame.
Like hardtack.
I want this whole film, I want Frodo to be hardtack. Okay? Sam, bacon and potatoes. Frodo, 7-year-old hardtack. So that happens a lot. That happened to Hayden Christensen. Anakin Skywalker. That happened to him. You know?
Yeah. I hate sand.
Oh, the script was bad, and George Lucas kept just telling him to be weirder, and he'd run him through the scenes over and over until he was exhausted, and so then that's the one he'd keep. And that was a technique that he used in other older films like American Graffiti, but back then it worked really well. You're trying to have this kid role play a certain role, and they were too rigid, too fake because they were trying to be a nervous teen who just illegally bought alcohol, and it was coming through too natural, too healthy. So you run it over and over until they start fucking up, and you're like, that's how a kid would behave, right? But this isn't American Graffiti. This is Star Wars, and this is supposed to be romantic. And instead, I just want to vomit.
He's a teenager who's like stumbling through his first.
I feel like someone walked up to him and was just like, "Hold on, we got this grease stick. We're just gonna rub that on you a little bit."
I want you to feel as uncomfortable as possible.
Yeah, I want you to be even more comfortable than the rest of us are.
And I feel like that's why people probably like Clone Wars much better.
Because he's like a real character. And then you watch, so this new Ahsoka show isn't very good compared to like Andor or Mandalorian. But there's a section of it where they bring back Anakin Skywalker as a Force ghost. Ahsoka essentially loses a fight and should die. And then in her like mind space, she meets Anakin. And he goes through this whole thing interacting with her, flip-flopping between being himself and like pretending to still be Darth Vader to like intimidate her until she gets the lesson. and it's really good. His body language, his expressions, his inflections, just the lines for him are really good, where he's like, you haven't learned anything. And she's like, don't say that. And he's like, again, from the beginning, I gave you a choice. Live. And then he pulls out his lightsaber and it's like, or die. And then she goes, no. And he goes, incorrect. And then attacks her. And it's like such a well-delivered line. And it's like, oh, you could have done this, but your career was ruined because George Lucas is just a butterball now.
Yeah.
He speaks like this and talks about the Grungies.
Because like
I made the Grungies first. That's where I started, was with the Grungies.
Because seeing Anakin in the movies, it's hard to see how he becomes Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, I forget his name. Rest in peace. The guy who plays Darth Vader's voice, not the guy.
Thank you, Michael. James Earl Jones. Yeah.
He's like, it's such a wonderful performance by him. Just like, because I don't know if you knew this. Whenever they played, like they were in the movie, they had no idea how Darth Vader would sound.
Yeah, because it was the guy inside the suit who was actually just saying the lines.
But like, such gravitas, the way he delivers his lines, and at the end, it's like having James Earl Jones give that delivery is such a game changer versus what Anakin is.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and just his descent into being Vader was pretty just insane. But this is an issue that Star Wars has as a medium. Already evil characters and already good characters are fine, but when you try to show the descent into darkness, it always happens too quick. 1 minute they're like a good guy, and the next minute they're like killing babies and like ready to commit genocide.
Yeah, how do I bring people back to life?
Right. Oh, I want to bring. There's a. Have you ever? Do you know who? Do you know what the best page in the universe is?
No.
Best page in the universe is a blog that's existed for a long, long time, and in it, when Star Wars, the new series, the Star Wars, not the Phantom Menace, but the Clone Wars and Return of the Sith. Or Revenge of the Sith came out, there was an article he made, and he would write these whole segments just ranting about how shit this was. When A Quantum of Solace came out for James Bond, he said, a quantum is how much interest I have in this film. and so like he rants about this kind of stuff, and in it there's a line I always remember. It says, "Hello, Anakin. I'm a Sith Lord. My people are known for lying and deception. Can I offer you a dubious solution to all your problems? Ah, well, Senator, or Chancellor, despite the fact that I just met you and have no reason to believe anything you said, I will do everything based exclusively off of a vague dream that something might happen one day, potentially."
And it's interesting. He never tries to bring anyone back to life.
He never brings her back.
It's like it never comes up again.
It never. Yeah, that's the worst part. It doesn't even come back up. It's just, oh, yeah, she's gone. Okay, well, you said bring her back to life. Anyway, I'd love for you to go commit a few genocides. Okay,
you're a robot now. It's like they didn't even set up why he does what he does or follow Palpatine very well.
All of the explanations about why Darth Vader continues to even follow Palpatine is all in comic books that are only half relevant anymore. And it's all just based on this idea of self-hate. And it's like, so because of self-hate, he hasn't even, like, he can kill Palpatine. Like, we've already seen, like, he won so many fights against Jedi who were very powerful. And you want to tell me that Palpatine, who almost lost the fights to both Yoda and Samuel Jackson. No. He lost a fight to Samuel Jackson. Let's be clear. Samuel Jackson plays no characters. There are movies, and all of the characters are Samuel Jackson.
I'm kind of sad that Samuel Jackson lost that fight. It's like,
well, he almost won, and he would have won if he didn't have the greatest blunder ever, getting pushed off of a ledge. You ever wonder in these like force fights why no one ever expects the other person to push them with the force? They do it to each other all the time. They take turns. There's this fight scene between Vader and someone else in a series, I don't remember where it was, where they literally just like, it's in the Obi-Wan series, and Obi-Wan gets pushed by Vader into a wall, and then 2 seconds later pushes Vader into a wall. They just take turns flinging each other across the room. I'm like, why are you even using lightsabers? Just stand there like this, and whoever dies of a concussion first wins.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like that's what you get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, it is sometimes weird. Like you wonder, why do you even have a lightsaber?
yeah, what's the point here? You guys are able to just like crush each other with rocks for kicks. Like,
It's like the only reason is that it looks cool when Dooku does it because he's very cool.
yeah, Dooku is unironically the coolest character in the new Star Wars. Even if you watch the Clone Wars series, his motivations, you're just like, oh, like Dooku was right all along. The worst thing that happened was that Sidious betrayed him.
It was
because he was right. He was just right.
It was such an unfortunate end for such a cool character. I think he deserved more.
Like his reason for leaving the Order was like, oh no, that's like just correct. Like he literally just was like, you guys are corrupt and have the wrong idea and you keep fucking things up and you're literally just as evil as the things you claim to fight, which is correct.
Yeah.
And then he was like, yeah, I mean, I'm doing dark things, but my goal is to bring stability because we are not stable. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, whose else is going to do it? It's just, he's such a good character. And then his fighting style is so cool.
Yeah. It's like he like does some special lightsaber moves that he can only do because he's so good at fighting with a lightsaber.
Yeah. Well, he's a fencer.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a master at fencing and that's his whole thing.
And it's like, I can't hate him. I hate everyone else around him. Palpatine is not as interesting as
Palpatine's boring compared to Dooku. Well, the cool thing, you know, Palpatine is this guy who's just like, imagine if you will, it was instead of the dark side.
Imagine an old, angry man who's just insane. And
yeah,
that's all he is.
That's all he is.
Imagine Back to the Future, like old man, except he's evil.
Okay, imagine for a second, if you will, that the Force doesn't exist, and instead, when people snort a line of coke, they gain superpowers. And if you do it in moderation, you can be really strong.
This is
but
just
what Palpatine does is that he is just liquefied cocaine, and it is in a drip filter, and it is put directly into his neck, and he never stops, right?
And infinite power,
and he's just like, his body is degrading. He has no mind because he never comes down off of his high. And Dooku has mastered the art of snorting a line, right? He snorts a line, kicks your ass, and then goes, none more for me, thanks. I don't need it.
No, in fact, before he snorts, he makes like a decorative photo. he does latte art. It was like,
well, because he's a character who, out of all the dark side characters we see, he's totally using it as just a tool. Yeah. He is absolutely in control, and he at no point is being controlled by it.
And my favorite thing about him is like, who is that guy who has 6 lightsabers?
Oh, General Grievous.
He teaches General Grievous that way because it's like just having more lightsabers is better than
just a force multiplier.
Is like, rather than actually trying to teach them to like fence better, he just says, yeah, just use more.
Well, the other reason is that he is able to train other people to be so good is that his techniques rely on just being a good swordsman instead of relying excessively on the Force, which is why he can teach people who are not Force sensitive to be good at lightsabers.
Which I think is it's an interesting idea that will never come back.
It'll never come back because they've decided that lightsabers are magic mood rings and that the rocks have feelings. And that the lightsaber won't work for you if it doesn't feel like it likes you, unless you're evil. And then you can cut it like an emo kid and it turns red. And then you can force it to work for you.
Yeah.
Which is also something they just do for kicks. I don't know why. Like, you did, my lightsaber works perfectly. But now that I've decided to go evil, I'm going to grip it really hard and think about how sad I am.
You know what it is? Dark side people are just goth kids.
Yeah, that's true. I actually would like the next villain to just be named Dark. Who are you? Dark.
It's like,
Dark. Like, did you mean Darth? No.
It's like, these are my favorite metal bands.
My name is Dark, and I hate. That's because that's what Star Wars has become. Baylan Skoll in the Ahsoka series is the only character that Disney has created where you're like, wow, what an interesting and nuanced character who thinks that all of this light versus dark is a waste of time and that there's something else, but that means that sometimes you have to be bad to be good, and sometimes you have to be good to be bad. And it's like, oh, interesting. What an interesting, nuanced character. I'd love to. Oh, never mind. Goodbye.
It's like someone, they had a stroke, but because they had such a hard time writing him, the person who wrote him died.
They died. Unfortunately, the actor who played Bane Skull also is dead. But that is not why he was gone. It's just why he won't be back. He is gone because
the writers could not handle the nuance.
Well, do you want to know why Ahsoka's lightsabers are silver or white?
They are?
Yeah. It's because she goes and finds Sith crystals and purifies them after they've been bled. And when you purify them, they come out silver because you're like really good. You're so good. Don't you love my writing? I'm actually a genius. This is why I get a lot of money. It's not because my aunt runs the company or just because, like, you know, my dad has connections or is an actor from an old film. It's actually because I'm really good at this.
Can regular people even use lightsabers anymore?
I'm sure they can turn it on, but for whatever reason, they always seem to fuck it up.
Finn could use one.
Yeah, well, but they had to take it away from him, and he never just picked up another one.
Yeah. That was the only character moment Finn had in the first movie. When someone came up and said, "Traitor!" and then he fought him. I was like, what?
You ever wonder why someone doesn't just like they make all of these things, like these shock sticks and stuff that can fight a lightsaber. You ever wonder why someone doesn't just pick one up and just like use it? There's no reason not to. There's got to be a ton of them out there. You know, all those dead Jedi left them behind. Someone's probably hawking them somewhere. Why does no one just pick one up and just be like, hey, this is pretty cool. I'm going to stab some people with it.
Aren't there supposed to be like Jedi killers who are not necessarily force sensitive, who can just kill Jedi?
Well, in the old lore, there are different things. So there is the Inquisitors who are force sensitive. They're just not Sith. See, Sidious did this whole thing back before Disney shit their pants, and actually after Disney shit their pants, because the Inquisitors are also a Disney thing and they suck ass. They have weird lightsabers that spin. It's super stupid. But they the thing is that he was like, the rule of two only applies to Sith, not all Force users. So I can train Darksiders, but just can't train them in Sith secrets. So he has like the Inquisitors, the Prophets of the Dark Side, the Hand of the Emperor, all these different Force-sensitive groups. But besides that, in the old lore, Teras Kasi, the art of Teras Kasi, is a martial arts style invented by normal people to beat the fuck out of Jedi. Not because they're evil, just because they said someone should be able to do this. So they trained in the art of Teras Kasi to just be like, I can parry your Force moves and avoid your lightsaber and kick you in the dick really hard. And as it turns out, a strong dick kick really disables almost anyone.
Yeah. I find it is very hard to reply to a dick kick.
Yeah. Oh, my dick.
Because the problem I always have with very strong characters is when no one can, no jobber can like come close. It's like when no jobber can beat you, is like all of a sudden it's like, I'm not really interested in your story.
Well, yeah, because it's one thing if you're really good at avoiding death. It's another thing when you're just so strong
that no one can do anything.
No one can do anything.
I'm just watching you bully people.
Well, it was the thing I always liked about Marvel more than DC. I feel like a lot of DC characters like Superman are just kind of invincible.
Yeah.
They're only in danger when some like phlebotinum shows up. Like, this is our special, MacGuffin that makes you in danger. And without it, you're just unstoppable. That's not very interesting.
Yeah.
But like Marvel characters were usually actually had people that could just hurt them.
Yeah.
And they had to win by being more skilled. Or figuring out something or getting help.
Or they have to figure out a puzzle, like all of Spider-Man's villains.
Oh, yeah. That's a weird coincidence. So that's not like a callback to anything.
Well, because that's one of the reasons I also just like Spider-Man, because he actually has to think through his problems.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, it's always a puzzle. And because he's supposed to be a very smart kid, he does that constantly.
Have you noticed that throughout this conversation, we've had a lot to talk about these subjects that a lot of people would say, I don't really like them? even you had a lot to say about Star Wars, despite your not particularly strong interest in Star Wars.
Because I'm not interested in the movies. Like, I don't know if I've said this previously in a previous podcast. I don't hate Star Wars. It's like I don't
you just were never interested in space operas.
I was not interested in this space opera. I wasn't interested in like Luke and Leia and Han Solo's dynamic, because that's all it really was.
Right. But you see what I'm talking about is that my original premise is that people will say they don't like something.
Oh.
And what they really mean is that there's certain things about it that they don't engage with or what it's become.
Yeah, I think a good example of that is Star Trek. I will always love the original Star Trek show, and I will always love the Next Generation. I cannot watch the new shit.
I like Deep Space Nine, and that's my cutoff. After Deep Space Nine, I lost interest. And I think that, and I agree, the new shit is the right word.
Because
go watch the Orville.
My favorite episode in the Next Generation was there was this one guy. He was kind of like a weird, like, he was awkward, and he had problems like socializing. He lived out his fantasy in the holodeck. And
I remember this episode.
And do you know what the characters did? They didn't shame him for it.
No.
In fact, they actually like thought through it. Like Riker, like they mentioned like, yeah, you can be pretty intimidating sometimes. It's like you can be pretty tall. And like, although like I forget her name, the
weird empath woman.
Yeah, the empath woman was kind of like, she didn't really like how she was shown in the holograph. Like, she didn't necessarily like think he was like a creep or anything. It was like,
oh no, he's well, that's the funny thing is people will often label any like attraction you have to another person. It's like, oh, that's creepy. It's like, really? It's just a fantasy.
And it's like,
it just means they like you.
She understood it was a fantasy. And later on in a different episode, when he kind of has a glow up and he gets his own thing going, she does actually like go on a date with him, and Riker's kind of for it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I like that. I really like that episode because it kind of showed how, although it's like, I didn't think these characters necessarily did anything wrong, but I could also see how this one character also could be given a chance to do better. Because like he had a chance. He was on the Starship Enterprise for a reason. It was because like he has some aptitude.
Right. He's skilled.
And
you don't get put on the flagship for no reason.
Yeah. And the fact that they gave him a chance and they didn't like treat him as like, they didn't like abscond him completely. They approached him because they had a problem with him, but they resolved that problem with him in a reasonable and grown-up fashion. But
the thing about Star Trek, especially The Next Generation, is that it is a series written by competent people that had messages to deliver. And those messages were written in a way where you would hopefully learn. And in this episode you're referring to, the lesson here was, okay, we have a problem.
Yeah.
We need to address that problem. To address it, we have to understand where it's coming from. Oh, we have a hand in the problem that we have.
Yeah. And then I saw like a clip from like a recent Star Trek show. It's like at the end of the thing, the solution was, oh, he's just an idiot. That was like, oh, he made a mistake, he's just an idiot.
Because that's what modern writers know. They don't actually have they have no social awareness. This is a problem we have in society right now, right?
Yeah.
You see this on social media, you see it in personal interactions.
Yeah.
We are at a point now where nobody asks, what hand do I have in the situation, and what is actually the best outcome? They all just say the only way that whatever situation I'm dealing with can conclude is that the other person is a bumbling fool and that there is no other explanation, right? That is how people engage with everything. That's how they engage with every disagreement. They see themselves as the hero, and not just the other person as a villain, but the other person is innately and totally wrong.
Yeah.
And we talk about this, right?
Yeah.
Because what is the thing that I always talk about when I talk about right or wrong and should and shouldn't?
It's you should keep out your feelings. You have to actually talk about the facts of what's happening.
The facts of what's happening, and the idea that there is no such thing as should and shouldn't.
Yeah.
There is only what the result you want and what you need to do to achieve that.
Yeah.
And the only should in your life is that you should do the things that will lead to the result you're trying to achieve. And that's it. Yeah. Because if you are having a conflict with a friend, you can sit here and say, well, I'm right and they're wrong. But so do you want to stay angry? Well, no. Do you want to stay friends? Yes. Is your current course of action going to make that be the case? And that is the lesson that they're trying to impart. But we don't have that nowadays. Nobody thinks that way. They just stand their ground. They're stubborn. And I'm not saying that throughout history, boomers were bad at this stuff too.
Yeah.
But I feel it is more prevalent now than ever. When I was 20 years ago, I felt like it was a lot more prevalent that the messages that existed
were forward thinking.
Were forward thinking. And I feel like those messages got lost because now the current generations that are here, that are writing the messages, are writing these messages of no, you're just right and they're just a nincompoop.
Because you know what the difference is between Captain Kirk kissing, well, I forgot the science lady, the black lady was in the first episode, is that they were going against their producers. They were going against the people who were afraid of what would happen. Yeah,
they wanted him to kiss her because they wanted a white man to kiss a black woman.
Yeah. And they wanted to make a point that the Star Trek is beyond that stuff.
Yeah, it's a future where things are good. I know it's an impossible future to imagine. A future where things are good. Who would have ever? It is a fantasy, really.
that that's the Final Fantasy all along. The saddest part is that's my favorite part about Star Trek, but it is the one thing that will never happen.
Yeah, a future where things are good. Yeah, that is true. No, I agree with you though, and I think that's what makes Star Trek, the older Star Trek, so interesting. And it shows that with a lot of these old shows, old movies, that there was a message about being better people wanted to deliver, and now a lot of popular media isn't even about that. Not even children's shows.
Their point is just that I am better.
Yeah, I am better. That's even how children's shows are. A lot of these new children's shows are just written by like people who are just morally righteous, and the main characters are the best and the bad guys are the worst. And you'll watch these people literally write a story where their own character is the asshole and then conclude the story with, and that's why I'm the best.
This makes me miss Winnie the Pooh. It's like, I still really like Winnie the Pooh. The last good Winnie the Pooh media was the movie like years ago. And I really did enjoy that movie, and they kind of ruined it by making it live action and like every other children. Because what Winnie the Pooh, all he is like he's just this dopey bear who wants honey all the time. And he makes mistakes all the time, but he's not a bad person.
He's not malicious, yeah.
But it's like there are different friends who are all different archetypes. There's Rabbit who wants things to go a specific way. He is that naggy neighbor.
His eternal lesson is realizing that things are never always going to go how he wants.
Yeah.
Pooh's lesson is eternally that he's gonna have to apologize for his mistakes.
And Owl is that he thinks he's like he wants to appear as the smart, intelligent person,
and sometimes he's just not gonna have the answer. Yeah
and I really like that show even now. Right. I think I could watch it and enjoy it. Mm-hmm. But that sort of stuff has kind of died.
Yeah,
it's like
we need a new Mr. Rogers. Bring back Can we resurrect the dead? Anyone got the Necronomicon? If you have the Necronomicon and know where Mr. Rogers is buried, help a boy out. Let's bring it back, okay? We're bringing back Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
I should watch I forget what happens, but I really remember enjoying that as a child.
It was really good. He was a communication scientist. He really understood communication, and he went out of his way to try to make a show that spoke to children the way that they thought at the level of development they were at, and deliver a very critical message about communication in a way children would understand. And that's why he always did things slowly. That's why he always did things deliberately, and made a point in the way he spoke to engage children's minds and really have it sit in, and it was repetitious. It was always every episode there was a lot of repeated things that he did, and that was all because of the way children's minds work, because he was trying to impart certain critical lessons about communication. And honestly, if I was being real with myself, I watched a lot of Mr. Rogers, and I now that I think about it, it's probably why I was so ahead of my peers in the subject of communication. I could be wrong, of course, but I was vastly ahead of my peers. I consumed a lot of that kind of media, and we actually know now that when children are that young, what is imparted to them plays a huge role on their overall development. Critical thinking, for example, is something the sooner you start engaging children in critical thinking, it vastly affects their brain. Now, adults can still develop. Contrary to popular belief, adults' brains are not bricks. I tell people this all the time. You know, when people say, "Oh, I wish I was like you in like blank thing," I go, "Well, I learned that your brain actually, you can get smarter. It is possible for you to get smarter, and the way to do it isn't just reading a book. It is practicing. Practice communication. Practice critical thinking. Practice these difficult logical quandaries, and the more you do it, the more neural pathways your brain will develop. And you can increase your IQ by doing things that exercise your brain's ability to memorize information. You can increase your IQ.
You know, I don't think this comes out of nowhere, because it's like there's an anime that came out recently, which is based off of an old English book. It's like about this, I forget the name, god damn it. Something of Green Gables.
Anne of Green Gables?
Anne of Green Gables. And I remember watching that. I was like, this will be fun to watch. And as I watched it, I was like, I read this as a fucking child. And I remember all of this. And I remember my favorite line is like, "Is all you ever want to be called in your life a woman?" That was such a good fucking line.
There's a lot. You want to know what's interesting about that? The fact that you remembered that, and you remembered all of it, but only after you were engaged with the thing again. Yeah. So you actually had that information the whole time.
Yeah, I remembered all the scenes. I was like,
you actually never lost that information.
Yeah. And it's like it makes me want to reread that book again. Because it was an interesting look on like how people interact with each other. God damn it.
But this is my point, right? Is that like we live in an era, and we have for most of history, where we see things as, we know as people that things constantly change, that we learn new things and the rules change. And yet people argue endlessly about solid facts, solid truths, and they do this all of the time. And Einstein was wrong, right? Einstein didn't approximate for black holes.
Yeah.
Right? Black holes were discovered based off of his math, but he completely missed the idea of black holes. So if that's true, why do we constantly regurgitate that? And everyone will say, they'll say with in one direction, they will say science is understanding that you know very little, and that what you think is true may not be true tomorrow. And then in the next breath, argue with you about a hard fact of reality that cannot change or move. That is what they'll do. So you say, oh, nothing can travel faster than light.
Nothing that we know of.
Nothing that we know of, or using technology we currently have.
Because people constantly think, they hear rules like, what is it? Laws of physics.
Laws of physics.
And they don't understand that that's part of a theorem, a part of a hypothesis. It's like these are laws inside of an idea of what things probably how things probably work. And this has been true throughout all of science, is that we never think of things in like terms of concrete things. This is why scientists have a hard time explaining like global warming to like regular people, because they can't.
Well, I'm holding a snowball, so where's the warming?
Well, it's because they can't speak in absolutes. It's against the nature of science. You can't speak in anything in terms of an absolute, because
that's what people do.
That's
you
what
go talk to your professor and they speak in absolutes. We learn absolutes. In fact, one of the things I thought was so interesting was when I think it was DARPA accidentally created a warp bubble, like a verified warp bubble where physics inside the bubble and physics outside the bubble were not the same. Mm-hmm. And it was super tiny and it took a ton of energy, but they did it. And I talked about this to so many people and nobody could argue against it because it did happen. But you could hear in that, like it did. And I'm like, here's the evidence. Here is DARPA saying it themselves and showing it. Yeah. And then but you could see behind people's eyes, you could hear in their voice this idea like they wanted to reject it.
Because people don't understand that what they see is only from their vantage point, and everything that they see is a representation. Mm-hmm. Representation is not the whole truth. Mm-hmm. And that's so hard for the human mind to comprehend. That's why science is so difficult, because you have evolved from just like seeing this happens, so then this happens.
Right.
And then just believing, oh, that's how all things like happen. And then if something disproves that, your mind kind of like breaks. Like, what?
Right. Well, but that's a different state of being, right? Because I feel like that's where most people are. But I rarely run into that because I have over life, and I'm not saying I'm special because I used to be like that, but I have realized that everything is up to change. Everything is up to interpretation, and I'm just ready. I'm ready for the new info, right? So when someone comes to me with something that, I always remember. I've gotten in arguments with people where they're like, "Oh, you never admit I'm right." Like we'll get in an argument, and then they'll say, "You never admit I'm right when I'm arguing." I say, "That's not true. I've admitted you were right plenty." I'm like, "No, you didn't." I said, "No, you only remember when I didn't. Because when we disagree, we have a long back and forth. And when you present to me information that I have no counter to, I go, oh, all right." And you don't remember that because it's not very satisfying that I didn't lay on the ground and go, "Oh, you were so right. I'm a cuck and you're a Chad." Like, that's what you wanted and you never got it. So you think I've never said you were right. Mm-hmm. Michael and I have had this before, right? And Michael has grown from it. You'd admit it, right?
You're wrong.
No, but we've had that argument where later he was like, "You're right. That's actually true." And you have to be, if you are ready to be wrong, you'll never really be fazed by being wrong. It won't upset you.
Because I didn't really have that problem either. Because I remember in elementary school first learning about the scientific method and really falling in love with that line of thinking.
Well, you're an engineer. You have an engineer's brain. And most engineers are always just looking for the next thing to be wrong about and to find and then start engineering a solution.
Yeah, that's why I use Linux.
Unfortunately.
Because it's like I'm never under the assumption that I'm correct. I'm under the assumption that I've gathered a lot of evidence and this is the most likely correct thing. Yeah. I am ready for someone to prove me wrong, but I really want them to go through the same rigor as I went to create my solution. I am very dissatisfied if I feel like the person I am talking to has not put in the same effort as I did to come up with my solution. And that's a big
ask, yeah.
But it's a big ask, but I feel like it should be asked.
The thing that I run into a lot is, so sometimes when I'm arguing with people, this thing that pisses people off is I'll just go, "This isn't up for debate." I'll say something like that, and that makes them angry, but there's a reason I do that. Mm-hmm. It's because most of the time nowadays when people want to argue, they don't want to do like you said. They don't want to have a reason and an explanation and a conclusion. Mm-hmm. They just want to like grasp at bullshit that isn't the core thing you're discussing and derail constantly. And it's like, I don't care if you get mad at me for this. I'm just going to say this is an axiom. It's not up for debate. We're moving on, right? And there's two kinds of people who move on and we have the main discussion, or the people who get mad about that.
And it's interesting because this is a weird reason why I was actually pretty decent at debate, because I understood that debate was not about that stuff. I understood the point about debate was sounding the most correct.
Yeah, you don't have to be right. You just have to sound right. You have to sound confident, and you basically, the best debaters are people who, in a sentence,
the base masturbator.
Yeah,
the best masturbator.
The best masturbators are the people who say a bunch of sentences, and in one sentence, so they cover people say, why do you get so angry? So because I don't debate, I'm discussing. But what you just did is you swapped over to a new topic, and I have to address the absolute stupidity of what you just said.
Yeah, you have to come up as much problems as possible, and then you have to make them deal with it, like how most of our technology is today.
Right, which is why I don't debate. I always tell people, I will discuss a topic with you, but if you want to debate me, I'm not interested. And the reason is because debate isn't about delivering good information or learning anything. It is just about, and you see it because people have consumed so much online debate media, bullshit for engagement, political debate, Destiny, Jordan Peterson, and what's the short guy, Beb Shabibo, Bill,
that guy.
Beb, yeah, good old Beb. And they all, their tactics are to say a lot of things, and then you're floundering to address all of them, because as soon as you pick one to address, then they go, but you didn't answer about the other 10 that I presented at once. And it's like, well, I have to present them. I have to talk about them one by one. No, you have to somehow address all 10 points at the same time.
Yeah.
And then later, all of their fans who didn't listen and had already decided who the winner was before turning it on go, dude, Beb rocked that guy.
He is the soy. I was like, what?
He's my guy's the Chad and my opponent's the soy Jack.
I was like, what? Because debate is so much sexier than scientific thinking. Well,
or discussing, or
not
critical
to me.
thinking.
Not to me. I get hard
like
on that stuff.
But reasonable discussion that results in learning is not very sexy. I mean, it is to me.
Yeah, but compared to just like saying a bunch of shit, because debate at the end of the day is not addressing facts. It's swaying people.
Yeah.
It's a different point of view. That's why there are all these logical fallacies that no one follows, because they're very useful.
yeah Everyone uses the logical fallacies all the time because they're useful tools.
Yeah.
It's we always talk about straw man. Everybody straw mans all the time. You can literally say you're straw manning and they just don't address it and keep going, and then everyone goes, dude, that guy beat him so good when he called him a bitch.
that was a pretty good one.
Yeah. When he said you're a cuck, that's how we know he won. Like, really? Yeah. Well, the argument was, does light exist? Yes or no? They're both sitting in a room. My guy said light exists. The other guy said you're a cuck. Yeah, that's how we know it's all dark right now.
Yeah.
I can't see shit. Yeah, that's the point, Anyway, we kind of got off subject there, but kind of I mean a lot. But it's
a very rare thing that happens.
That never happens on this show.
Yeah.
But I do feel we've kind of covered the original topic completely. Is there anything that we kind of missed as we deviated away that you want to readdress, or do you feel like everything was covered well?
Well, this is a question I should be asking you. This is your topic. What do we do?
I'm good. Yeah, we're done.
Okay.
You're right. For once, it's my topic. You should have asked that, but. Come on, we all know who's in the driver's seat here.
Michael.
Damn, it's that guy.
He could have stopped recording this whole time, and we would have never known.
We know the podcast is over, and we just look like bitches. He could be drawing us as soy jacks right now. We wouldn't even know.
Yeah, exactly. He just figured out his power. I was like, what happened?
Oh God! If he was about to tell me he wasn't recording this whole time, I was going to run over there and drop kick him. I was so gonna do it. I was like, his life ends today. This is it. I have known this man for 12 years, and soon I will know him no more.
He has too much power over this podcast. God damn it.
All right. Well, we have reached the end. If you made it, please leave a comment letting us know. Zipper, Bottle, I always know you guys are there. Appreciate you. You're the real Chads, not the soy jacks. For everybody else, if you made it to the end, please let us know. And let us know what you thought of the episode. But either way, Mansur, thank you for your time. Michael, thank you as always. And thank you, viewers, for watching. We'll see you next time.
Yes. We.